Hey everybody, it's Jen. Just wanted to come on and talk about the energy this afternoon. So we've been experiencing these waves of energy for quite a while and they hit every so often. So this afternoon, it hit me hard enough that it actually made me feel a little bit wobbly, a little bit queasy. And that doesn't happen very often. Like I feel the energy, but when it hits me that hard that I'm like, wait a minute, this is actually physically making me have a reaction. I always try to give you guys a heads up because I want you to be aware that you're not crazy, because a lot of times when you're first really diving into the energy and understanding the way that it makes you feel, and you start correlating, okay, this was an energy shift. It's not just something random and I'm not just physically feeling off. There's something more to this. The more awareness you have about that, the more power you actually have to then work with the energies. So when that energy hit this afternoon, I just could feel that there was going to be more than just me experiencing it. And I actually texted a couple of my girlfriends and they're like, yeah, what was that? And we correlated the timing was almost exactly the same time, even though they were in different time zones. So I was like, I better give everybody a heads up. So when that happens, when you are going along your day and everything's fine, and then out of the blue, you don't feel well, you feel dizzy, you feel off kilter, any of those kind of things, take a minute and just feel into it. Like just take a minute, tune into your heart, breathe a little bit, and just ask for guidance. Like, is this physical? Is this energetic? What is it doing? Why is my body responding this way? What is the energy like? Is it triggering anything in me, or am I just feeling it? Because a lot of times when these big energy waves are coming through, it's actually helping us with the ascension process. So if you find yourself getting triggered, or if you go into panic, like, oh my God, I'm going to get sick, and you start going into that, then it's a really good time for you to look at it and say, okay, what's really going on here? And how can I learn to start working with this energy instead of fighting against it? Because what I mean by fighting against it is when you're like, well, I don't know why I'm sick. I don't know what's going on. And you fall into that habit, right? And it's normal. There's nothing wrong if that's what you're experiencing. But when you're not used to this, when it's new to you, and I know there's a lot of people in our group that are kind of like, they've been drawn to the idea of working with their angels. They've been drawn to the idea of knowing that there's something more. They've been drawn to the idea of like energy and ascension and awakening and all of those words that we throw around. But what does that actually mean? It really means our bodies are being recalibrated. We're being literally like fine-tuned within our energy frequency, which is going to affect our physical bodies, right? Which is why I always say we have to look at the 5 pillars. We need to be looking at physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, and galactic energy. So galactic energy right now would be like the solar storms, the geomagnetic storms, the coronal mass ejections that were happening. There's physical energy going on, like the volcano that causes energy in the air. There's emotions, because people's emotions create energy as well. So sometimes it's a lot of emotions in the area. This is why if you're empathic, like you can be perfectly fine. You walk into Walmart and you come out pissed off and not feeling good and cranky and headache and whatever else happens, right? If you're not aware of that, then that's what can happen. So what you want to do is understand, okay, look, I just felt this energy wave. What does that mean for me? What is it showing me? Is it just being aware of it? Just like if the wind just came through, you just felt it, right? That means if you did, then that's actually a good sign that you're on the ascension path and you're starting to be refined within you to be more aware of and more in tune with the more subtle energies. And right now they don't feel as subtle. Like, I'll just say that. Like, this is stuff that a few years ago would have been a subtle shift, a subtle energy. Not many people would have felt it, but there's enough people who have awakened within themselves the understanding that there's spiritual things happening beyond what our human brain can understand and beyond what we've known in 3D. And now we're physically feeling that, right? So this is for empaths especially. And I want to clarify that empathic is different than having empathy. They are 2 separate things. Almost everybody on the planet can have empathy unless you have like some kind of emotional disorder, right? But most people can understand what it is to have empathy, sympathy, understanding where people's at. When you're empathic, it is a totally different thing, because it's It's a spiritual gift that can make you feel out of control because you're like, I feel everybody's shit and I don't know what to do with it. So when you're empathic, it's not having empathy for somebody. I just need to reiterate, it's a totally different experience. You can have empathy for somebody, understand where they're at, see how they're feeling, lend support, those kind of things. When you're empathic, it literally sometimes can feel like it's you. So we want to be aware of that. So with the scenario of walking into Walmart, that would be an empathic thing that if you don't understand, okay, I need to put up my shield, put up my boundaries so that I don't pick up everybody else's energy and emotions, thoughts, whatever, as I'm going through the grocery store or whatever store you're in. So you put up like a bubble of protection around you so that you're not soaking up other people's energy. When you're empathic and you don't know to do that, you can totally be like a sponge and you pick up shit from every single person that you walk by in the store. And sometimes it's not even the people, it's the energy that's still in the store from cranky people that were there before, right? So you can pick up energies that are not yours when you're empathic. Now, with what came through this afternoon, that felt more like some kind of an energy shift. Now, I know that there's a lot going on as far as, like I said, there's solar storms, there's geomagnetic storms, there's all kinds of crazy stuff going on with the Schumann resonance. This did feel collective to me. So that would make me feel like it wasn't like a solar flare, although it could have been, but if it was a solar flare, it hit everybody's body. And this would be like if wind came through and it hit your body. If you feel it, you know, you can have different reactions to it, right? Like if you have a perfectly peaceful day and then all of a sudden a storm comes up and there's wind, you can either be like, oh, the wind feels good, the breeze feels good, or you can be like, well, shit, now the wind's starting, right? And it can instantly flip your switch and make you into a different energy. Same thing with the frequencies of energy coming in. Again, this felt collective. So I'm wondering if something happened on the news or if something happened, or if people have just built up the emotions because of what's happened the last few days and it just kind of came through like a wave. But I know that I did feel it. And so when I post the things like I did today, where I said, hey, this just came up, this is what I felt, you may not feel nauseous. Like I felt a little bit queasy and I was like a little bit off kilter. I was like a little bit dizzy and I was like, wow, that's big, because like I felt it so strongly. I was like, wow, it's been a hot minute since I felt it quite that intensely. But it was interesting because I was like, wow, what is this? And it took me a minute, right? Like I had to be like, okay, wait, is this hormones? Because TMI, but menopause, stupid. I'm just going to say that. But so I was like, okay, is it that? Like, am I getting a weird hormone surge? And I'm like, well, no, because I've eaten today. I've, done all the things that I would know that would maybe make my blood sugar wonky or whatever. I've had plenty of water. Like, so I'm thinking, okay, there's nothing physically going on. So then I'm like, okay, is this spiritual? And I heard it was collective. And it felt like emotions, and it felt like really strong emotions. So I know there's been some things that have come up in the news over the last couple of days that are disgusting and make you want to puke. So it makes me wonder if finally a mass amount of people saw that enough that it created that frequency of emotion that came through. And those of us that are very sensitive to the energies are feeling it. Now, again, I haven't looked at the astrology today. It could be an astrology transit, but I don't know. I do know that Michael Lennox said that this is actually one of the more calm weeks as far as astrological events happening. It doesn't mean that nothing's going to happen. It just means that as far as the stars are concerned, there isn't anything very dramatic this week. I do know also that things will be picking up through the end of the year. So these energies, these frequencies will be picking up through the end of the year. Now remember, just like the moon, we feel the energy of the full moon a few days before, a few days after. And I've always talked about the same thing with any kind of Mercury retrograde or Venus retrograde or any of the things that happen that are big events in the sky, right? We feel that. And I kind of laugh. I remember when I was a kid, like hearing all the quote unquote old folks, grandparents and stuff talking about, oh, the barometric pressure must be off because my knee aches, or, there was always something, they could feel it in their bones. It's like that, only as we've upgraded and as we've ascended, because ascension is just rising up, right? So as our frequency has been refined, and as we have attuned to the more subtle energies, the more we feel it. And that's why the galactic energy is so intense and why we feel that physically. And again, especially if you're empathic, you'll feel it. Like it's a spiritual gift that cannot, sometimes it feels like a curse until you understand what it is and you understand how to work with it. But again, if it's hitting something within you, it's always an opportunity to say, what is this? Like, what is this doing? Is this triggering anything in me? Am I just feeling it? If it triggers something, use that energy. Use it. If you get triggered, use that energy and say, okay, this just brought up this feeling, this emotion, this thought, this belief, whatever. How can I process this through? How can I release this? How can I refine this? Right? Because that is the opportunity for growth, and that is the ascension path, right? So the spiritual path is a healing path. It's an awakening path. It's a refinement path, right? So it's really important to understand within yourself that, especially if you're empathic and you're new to these ideas, you are not crazy, right? And that's why I post when I feel things like this, or when I feel like I get the messages from my guides that there's something going on that more people are going to notice, especially in the Embodied Grace community. I try to give everybody a heads up. It's kind of like, I always talk about, like, anytime I do astro energy alerts or anything like that in the Ascension Club membership, I'm like, this is like a weather report. Like, this isn't saying bad things are going to happen or the storm's going to be terrible, but it's saying there's a chance of rain, grab a raincoat, right? So the same thing with this kind of stuff. This is just giving you an awareness so that you don't feel like you're crazy. Because I remember when I was going through this by myself 10 years ago, like, there was nobody to walk me through it and nobody to say, you're not crazy, you're feeling this, right? So I had to talk a lot with my guides and angels and say, what the hell is this? So within that, I've learned now how to do that. And I don't want you guys to walk that alone. I don't want you to go through this alone. I don't want you to feel uncertain or in fear or any of those kind of things. So anyway, just sending you guys lots of love today. That is probably the best way that I can explain for you to help work through this energy. And I felt really like I needed to do a video today because I do feel that towards, I don't know why I'm feeling November 18th, but from the 18th to the end of the year, I do feel like there will be astrological events that will be feeling the impact of the planetary shifts and the alignments, conjunctions, oppositions. Like, we feel all of that energy. So if you're empathic, start being prepared. Look at the ascension in the guides. I have one of the posts is the Ascension Symptoms, and it's all of the things that you might experience. Start figuring out, what do I recognize mostly on this list? What does it, because it shows up differently for everybody, right? So if you know that you tend to get headaches, I would say stay really, really hydrated and make sure you're doing a lot of minerals. Have essential oils on hand. Peppermint and lavender are two of my favorites to have. If you're getting a headache and you know that it's the energy, first thing is always hydration. Always, always, always. So coconut water is good. Any water and minerals are good. Lavender, disclaimer, I'm not a doctor, so I really can't tell you all of these things, but so disclaimer there. Talk to your doctor about this stuff. But essential oils, I like to put lavender and peppermint, and you can put it like on across your head. You can put it on your temples. You can put it behind your ears. You can even put it on your wrists, right? So any of the pressure points. Today, with it being queasy, if you know that you feel it that way and it kind of makes you feel that way, pressure points on your wrists, just like you would if you had, motion sickness or something. So know to look at everything from all of the aspects, the 5 pillars: physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, galactic, right? So sending you guys lots of love. I hope this helps, this video, and let me know how you're feeling. I know a lot of people responded to that post that I put, so I know a lot of people are feeling it. So let me know what questions you have. I'm happy to help. Talk to everybody soon.